She claimed she was sick, but I was seeing hotel bills, champagne, and her lover charged to our joint account. Hundreds of dollars spent in just 3 days on cheating and luxury. I rallied 18 men, all victims of this slimeball Rick, and we launched a manhunt that shook the entire town. No fists, just cold calculation and public exposure. Rick thought he'd get away clean? Not a chance. They say you never see the bullet that gets you. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't come swinging through the front door like a drunk ex-boyfriend. It sneaks in the back window, wearing a smile and maybe even your favorite t-shirt. I was sitting in a mid-range hotel room on the edge of St. Louis, halfway through a 4-day business trip, wondering if I should risk the mini-fridge beer or brave the suspiciously empty hotel bar. That's when I got the notification. Joint account activity, $327.19. Bella's Boutique. Bella's Boutique. Now, I don't know a lot about high fashion, but I'm fairly certain Bella isn't selling hydraulic brake pads or socket sets. At first, I figured maybe my wife, Amanda, was just treating herself to something. God knows she deserved it. Putting up with my long work hours, dealing with PTA meetings, wrestling our psychotic golden retriever into a Christmas sweater every December. But then the next one popped up. $89.99, Cloud9 Hotel and Suites. Followed, almost immediately, by another, $45, Sage Spa and Sauna. Yeah, that one made me sit up straighter. I opened my banking app with the kind of dread usually reserved for police knocking on your door at 3 a.m. There was a slow, painful parade of charges stretching back, about 3 days. Which was interesting because Amanda had supposedly been homesick with the flu. Cloud9 wasn't even in our town. It was 2 cities over. I was still trying to process this when the next notification hit. 1975. Room service, Cloud9. Memo, 2 champagnes plus strawberries. Champagne and strawberries. Real original, Amanda. For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen, waiting for my brain to slap itself and say, "Kidding, April Fool's, pal." But no, the evidence was right there, as ugly and clear as the time I tried growing a mustache in college. I sat back on the hotel bed and stared at the peeling wallpaper. My first thought wasn't even anger. It wasn't heartbreak. It was, damn, I can't believe she's cheating on me during flu season. How inconsiderate. Because that's how it goes when the ground gives way under you. Your brain goes straight to defense mechanisms. Dry humor, sarcasm, anything but feelings. I grabbed the cheap hotel pen and started jotting down the transactions. Because if I know anything about betrayal, it's that you need receipts, literal ones. And I was stacking up a damn novel's worth. When I finished, I stared at the list. Bella's Boutique, Cloud9, Sage Spa, room service. Amanda wasn't having a rough week. She was having a damn honeymoon without me. It was a gut punch, sure, but I wasn't gonna crumble. Oh no. I'd seen enough war movies to know you don't drop your rifle just because you took a bullet. You clench your teeth, you stuff a sock in the wound, and you keep moving. My next move? Simple. Find out who the hell was making my wife feel like a queen while I was selling my soul to corporate America in rented conference rooms. And buddy, let me tell you, when I found out who it was, it made the whole thing even better. I didn't go full private detective right away. First, I wanted to let the dust settle and see if Amanda would hang herself with her own rope. Sure enough, the very next morning, as I was chewing on a dry bagel from the hotel's continental breakfast, you know the type, tastes like a hockey puck left out in the rain, I got another notification. $5.76, morning brew coffee, location downtown. Downtown was 2 cities over, same place as Cloud 9. And get this, the idiot used our joint card again. That was it. I didn't need Sherlock Holmes or a black van with tinted windows. My own wife was setting off the fireworks, lighting up the sky with "I'm cheating" in bold neon letters. Later that day, I texted her, keeping it casual. "Hey babe, thought you were resting at home. How's the flu?" She replied, "Oh, miserable. Haven't even left the couch, just napping and watching Netflix." Netflix, huh? Must have been a special showing of Cloud 9 Room Service Chronicles. At that point, I wasn't even angry anymore. I just wanted to know which aspiring Casanova was stupid enough to mess with my wife and my bank account. And thanks to a little help from technology and my bloodhound instincts, I didn't have to wait long. When I checked the morning brew coffee charge, it had a note attached through the payment system. Rick, large black plus banana muffin. Rick. Now, Rick wasn't a complete stranger. I knew a Rick. Everyone around town knew that Rick. Rick was the kind of guy who still thought leather jackets were sexy at age 47. The kind of guy who winked at waitresses who were just trying to get through their shift without vomiting. Rick was the cautionary tale moms warned their daughters about after a few glasses of wine. And Rick had a reputation. A big, greasy one. This wasn't his first rodeo. Rick had been caught, not once, not twice, but 3 times before with other men's wives. There were rumors floating around that the pastor's niece once threw a chair at him during a church potluck because he got too friendly. And buddy, if you're getting hit with furniture at a potluck, you're a special breed of scumbag. I sat there in my cheap hotel chair, piecing it all together. Amanda was pretending to be homesick. She was cozying up with Rick at Cloud 9, a place where privacy meant thin walls and fake ferns in the lobby. She was using our card because apparently betrayal runs deep, but basic budgeting skills do not. It was almost comical, like if a Lifetime movie and a Walmart receipt had a baby. At that moment, I realized 2 things. Amanda wasn't just lying. She was dumb lying. The dangerous kind, where you think you're clever, but you're leaving breadcrumbs straight to your affair partner's muffin order. I wasn't about to roll over and cry about it. No, sir. If Amanda wanted a drama, she was about to get a front row seat. And Rick? Rick was about to find out that not every husband plays dead. Oh, and don't worry. I wasn't about to go full soap opera and bust into the Cloud 9 lobby like some jilted cowboy. I had a better plan. Because sometimes, the best revenge starts with a smile and ends with a bang. You ever hear that saying, revenge is a dish best served cold? Yeah, I don't like cold dishes. I like my revenge served smoking hot, still sizzling on the skillet, with a side of permanent humiliation. Once I figured out Rick was the other half of Amanda's extracurricular activities, I started making some calls. Small town, big mouths. In less than 24 hours, I had a little black book full of names. Names of men who had also been Rick's victims. Turns out, when you dig a little, Rick had been sampling married women around town like it was a damn Costco on a Saturday afternoon. There was Mike from the insurance office, lost his wife and his dog to Rick. There was Caleb, who Rick had personally shaken hands with while doing God knows what behind his back. And Paul, oh Paul. Paul found Rick's belt under his bed like some tragic souvenir. In other words, Rick wasn't just a problem, he was a public health hazard. So I called a little meeting. Neutral territory, a dusty back room at the bowling alley, where dreams go to die and where your beer tastes suspiciously like it was brewed in someone's garage. 6 men showed up. 6 angry, betrayed men who looked like they would have happily buried Rick under the 7th hole at the golf course. We sat around an old scratched-up table, drinking flat beer and tossing around ideas. At first, it was wild. Mike wanted to key Rick's truck and dump glitter in the cab. Paul wanted to post Rick's mugshot on every telephone pole with "Home Wrecker" stamped across it in red letters. Caleb wanted to, and I'm quoting here, accidentally knock him off the fishing pier. All tempting. But I had something better in mind. Something a little more long-lasting. "Listen," I said, tapping the table until the room went quiet. "We're not going to key his car or punch his lights out. That just gives him a sob story to tell the next gullible wife. We're going to make sure Rick's reputation gets torched so thoroughly he couldn't get a date at a prison mixer." They leaned in. Here was the plan. We'd create a nice, tidy, public record of Rick's community contributions. Spread the word where it counted. Facebook neighborhood groups, local forums, even bulletin boards at the gym and grocery store. Not slander, facts. Cold, hard, ugly facts. Photos if we had them. Messages, hotel receipts. Hell, even Rick's banana muffin if it came to it. We'd organize anonymous warnings to every new family that moved into town. "Watch out for Rick," they'd hear before they even learned where the gas station was. And cherry on top, one of the guys knew someone at the local newspaper, the kind of person who loved running community interest stories about shady characters causing problems. By the time we were done, Rick would be about as welcome as a wasp at a picnic. I laid it all out, and the guys sat back, nodding, grinning, and for the first time that night, laughing. Not just because it was a good plan, because it was a plan with teeth. Because Rick thought he could wreck homes and walk away without a scratch. But not this time. Not in my town. When the meeting ended, we shook hands like old war buddies. No drama, no violence. Just cold, calculated consequences. As I left that bowling alley under the flickering neon sign, I realized something. Rick didn't just mess with one man's marriage, he messed with an entire damn community. And now, Rick was about to learn that even snakes can get stomped if they slither into the wrong backyard. I got home from the business trip 2 days early. Didn't tell Amanda. Didn't need to. Let her enjoy her last little moments of thinking she was smarter than me. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed 2 things right away. First, the trash can was still out, lid half open, just like when I left. Second, Amanda's car was parked crooked, like she pulled in with the same care you'd give a shopping cart in a blizzard. Guilt, it turns out, isn't great for your parking skills. I walked into the house, quiet, clean, just a little too perfect. Like a crime scene that someone tried to scrub with lemon-scented bleach. She was sitting at the kitchen counter with a glass of wine, flipping through her phone. She looked up and froze. You know that look animals get when they hear the trap snap shut? Yeah, that. "Hey, babe," she said, voice a little too high. "You're back early." "Yeah," I said, dropping my suitcase with a thud that made her flinch. "Flight got canceled. Figured I'd drive." A beat of silence. You could practically hear the gears grinding in her head. I didn't drag it out. I walked right up, leaned on the counter, and looked her dead in the eye. "I know," I said. She blinked. "Know what?" "About you, Rick, Cloud 9, champagne and strawberries, and your habit of swiping our card while you played discount princess with the town's biggest walking caution tape." Her face drained of color so fast I almost felt bad. "Almost? You were supposed to be out of town." "Yeah, funny thing about lies," I said. "They only work when the other person isn't paying attention. I was paying attention." She set the wine glass down, hard. Tried to say something. I held up my hand. Don't bother. I'm not here to hear you cry about mistakes or midlife crises or whatever soap opera excuse you cooked up. I'm here to tell you how this is gonna go. I leaned in, close enough she could smell the road dust and stale gas station coffee on me. I'm not dragging your name through the mud. I'm not taking your money, your car, or your dog. You're gonna walk away clean. She opened her mouth, maybe to say thank you. Rookie mistake. But Rick, I smiled. A slow, easy, dangerous smile. Her mouth snapped shut. You see, sweetheart, Rick isn't just your little mistake. He's a repeat offender, a professional homewrecker. I let that sink in. And now, I'm making it public. Not to hurt you, not even really for me. I'm doing it for the next husband, the next marriage, the next family that doesn't even know that a snake is slithering up their front porch. Amanda looked like she might be sick. Good. I'm not sending death threats. I'm not slashing tires. I'm just shining a big ol' spotlight on Rick until he can't crawl under any more rocks in this town. She put her head in her hands. You wanted adventure? I said, voice still calm, still steady. You wanted a little excitement while I was out busting my ass for us? Congratulations, Amanda. You're gonna be famous. I stood up straight, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. Right before I left, I turned back and gave her one last piece of advice. You might want to start packing. The neighbors don't like traitors any more than they like rats. I closed the door behind me, slow and easy. Outside, the evening air smelled sweet. Maybe it was the honeysuckle blooming. Maybe it was just the smell of justice rolling in. It didn't take long. Less than an hour after I left her sitting there with her sins and her cheap wine, Amanda showed up at the motel where I was staying, the one right off Route 9, where half the signs flickered and the front desk clerk looked like he lost a fight with a stapler. I heard the knock. Didn't rush. When I opened the door, there she was, standing there like a kicked puppy, all red-eyed and messy-haired, still clinging to whatever dignity she thought she had left. "Please," she said, voice cracking, "can we talk?" I stepped aside, let her in. Because I'm a gentleman, even when I'm holding the door open for a sinking ship. She paced a few steps into the room, turning back toward me with her hands wringing like she was trying to strangle the guilt out of herself. "I made a mistake," she blurted. "It was stupid. It was meaningless. It didn't mean anything. I was lonely. You were always gone." I held up my hand again, just like at the house. She shut up instantly. Good. "Cut to the chase," I said. "I've got better things to do tonight than listen to fairy tales." Her lip quivered. Oscar-worthy performance. If only the Academy gave out awards for best attempt to rewrite history. "I know I hurt you," she whispered. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But please, don't do this. Don't go after Rick. Just let it go. We can move past it. Start fresh. I can be better. I will be better." She took a few steps closer, tears spilling now, reaching for my hand like it was a lifeline. "Please," she said again, "please forgive me. Please don't ruin both our lives over this." I looked at her hand. I looked at her tear-streaked face. And then I looked straight through her, like I was seeing the real Amanda for the first time. "You think this is about revenge?" I said, voice low, even. She blinked, confused. "This isn't about payback. This isn't about anger. Hell, it's barely even about you anymore. I took a slow step forward, forcing her to meet my eyes. This is about respect. This is about decency. This is about not letting parasites like Rick crawl around wrecking homes while good people sit back and say, "Not my problem." She opened her mouth, maybe to plead, maybe to lie some more, but I didn't let her. "And as for you," I smiled then, not cruel, just final. "You showed me who you are. You showed me that when things get tough, you don't fight. You don't stay. You don't work on it. You just jump into the nearest stranger's bed and hope nobody notices." Her tears came harder now, desperate. "You want forgiveness? Fine. Forgiveness means I'm letting go of the anger. It doesn't mean I'm stupid enough to hand you my heart again." She broke then, crumpling into the stained motel chair like a puppet with its strings cut. I grabbed my jacket off the bed and headed for the door. I'm not wasting another year of my life patching up something that died the minute you thought Rick's banana muffin was more exciting than our vows. I paused in the doorway, tossed one last line over my shoulder. "You go ahead and find someone who likes playing house with broken promises. Me? I'll find a woman who understands what loyalty actually means." And with that, I walked out into the night, breathing freer than I had in years. The storm was coming for Rick. Amanda had made her choice. And me? I was just getting started. By Thursday night, the team was ready. We called it Operation Rick. We're not creative men, we're pissed off men. Each guy had his job. Mike and Caleb handled the social media blitz. Paul was in charge of the welcome wagon, warning every new neighbor before Rick could sniff around. Tony and I were on boots-on-the-ground duty, putting up flyers, dropping anonymous tips, posting on the town's Facebook marketplace group, because nothing spreads faster than gossip between people trying to sell used lawnmowers. It was simple, it was surgical, it was foolproof. And, naturally, it started going sideways almost immediately. The first hiccup? Mike. Mike, bless his heart, didn't understand the concept of anonymous. Instead of setting up a fake profile to post the Rick warnings, he blasted it out from his personal account, Mike Sanders, proud dad, avid fisherman, Rick's worst nightmare. Along with a photo of Rick's face poorly photoshopped onto a rattlesnake's body. I got the text 5 minutes after it went up. "Bro, Mike posted using his real name, WTF." Then another. "Rick already saw it. Shit's blowing up." I sighed and rubbed my temples, sitting in my pickup, staring at my glove box like it might offer me guidance from the heavens. Meanwhile, Paul was running into his own issues. Turns out, when you walk around handing out "Beware of Rick" flyers to neighbors, some people think you're selling religious pamphlets. Others think you're drunk. At least one old lady called the police because she thought Paul was trying to recruit her into a cult. Great. Then Caleb, God love him, somehow managed to get himself banned from 3 Facebook groups in under an hour for spreading malicious rumors. Rumors. As if we were making up the fact that Rick treated other people's wives like a buffet line at Golden Corral. By midnight, the situation was looking like a drunk elephant had sat on our careful little blueprint. The group chat was lighting up with messages. "Mike, do we abort mission?" "Caleb, I'm at Dairy Queen hiding in the bathroom. A guy at the gas station asked if I was starting a biker gang. Should we just egg his house?" I took a long breath, feeling the weight of all the chaos swirling around me. And then I smiled, because you know what? It didn't matter. Plans were great. Execution was better. But momentum was king. And we had it. Mike's post, though hilariously reckless, had gone semi-viral in town. The comments section was lit up like a Christmas tree dipped in gasoline. I knew there was something off about Rick. My cousin's friend had her marriage ruined by him. Somebody needs to run him out of town. We weren't the only ones anymore. The town was grabbing their torches and pitchforks. It wasn't clean. It wasn't elegant. Hell, it wasn't even particularly smart at this point. But it was working. I sent one text to the group. No backing out now. Lean in. Keep feeding the fire. And just like that, the boys got back on the horse. We weren't running a quiet little operation anymore. We were running a full-blown wildfire. And Rick had no idea just how much hotter it was about to get. It started with Mike's dumb Facebook post. Then it spread. By Saturday morning, the town's gossip grapevine was running hotter than a chili cook-off in July. Rick's name was getting tossed around everywhere. Bars, hardware stores, even the line at the pharmacy. Small-town justice moves slow until it doesn't. And now, it was sprinting. I was back at the bowling alley, our unofficial headquarters, nursing a terrible cup of burnt coffee when my phone started buzzing nonstop. Men, lots of them, all reaching out. Guys I knew vaguely from softball leagues, fathers from the PTA, dudes from church groups, firehouses, mechanic shops, hell, even a couple of guys I hadn't seen since high school. Every call was the same. He messed with my wife, too. He hit on my sister at her job. That bastard broke up my buddy's family last year. Some wanted to shout, rant, beat their fists bloody. But most were calmer than you'd expect. Angrier, but calmer. They didn't want to swing punches. They wanted to talk. Not talk like a couple of kids at recess. Talk like grown men. Serious, heavy, final. That's the thing about real men. When you screw with their families, they don't immediately blow up. They calculate. They gather. And when enough of them gather, well, let's just say it stops being a conversation. It becomes a reckoning. By sundown, we had 18 names. 18 men, all willing to show up face to face with Rick and let him know that his days of charming wives out of marriages were officially over. We planned it like adults, not a mob, not some wild beatdown in a Walmart parking lot. This wasn't about fists. It was about showing Rick exactly how small, stupid, and isolated he really was. I sat back, scrolling through the list of names, feeling a deep, satisfied weight settle in my chest. Rick had always counted on secrecy, on silence, on shame keeping everyone quiet. What he never counted on was all of us standing together. Tony, leaning against the counter with a beer, grinned at me. "Feels like we're putting together the Avengers," he said. "Yeah," I replied, smirking. "If the Avengers had bad backs and anger issues." He laughed, and for a second, the tension broke. Then Mike, God bless Mike, poked his head into the room. "So, he said, scratching the back of his neck awkwardly, "you want me to draft up a talking point sheet for when we meet Rick?" We all stared at him. "Mike," I said, voice slow and steady, "this ain't a PowerPoint presentation. We're not debating tax reform. We're informing Rick, politely but firmly, that he's done here." Mike flushed a little, nodded. Right. Firm. Adult. Got it. The meeting was set. Rick's world was about to shrink to the size of a pinhole. And no flyer, no Facebook apology, no half-assed excuse was gonna save him now. Tomorrow, Rick was gonna get a visit from the Brotherhood of the Betrayed. And I had a front row seat. We were sitting around the back table at the bowling alley again, war room style, finalizing the plan to visit Rick the next morning. Coffee, bad pizza, old folding chairs. A regular Sons of Anarchy meeting if you replaced motorcycles with minivans and lower back pain. That's when the door swung open with a sharp creak, and in walked Sheriff Martin. Now, Sheriff Martin wasn't the kind of lawman you see on TV, no shiny sunglasses or fancy boots. Just a big, solid man who had a way of looking at you like he could smell a lie coming out of your pores before you even opened your mouth. He tipped his hat back and surveyed the room. 18 grown men, all suddenly trying to look casual. "Evening, boys," he said, voice low and easy. We all muttered our greetings, feeling like a bunch of kids caught smoking behind the barn. Sheriff Martin ambled over to the table, pulled out a chair, and sat down with a grunt. "Took me about 20 minutes to hear about your little project," he said, steepling his fingers on the table. Nobody spoke. Mike looked like he might wet himself. Paul pretended to check his phone. Finally, I cleared my throat. "We're not planning anything illegal, Sheriff," I said calmly. "Just conversation. Adult conversation." Martin's mouth twitched. Might have been a smile. "I don't doubt it," he said. "And believe me, fellas, there ain't a jury in this town that would convict any one of you for what you're feeling." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the battered table. "But here's the thing. 18 angry men show up at Rick's house. No matter how calm you think you're being, it's gonna look like an old-fashioned lynch mob to anybody driving by." He let that hang there. "And if Rick's as greasy and slippery as I hear," Martin continued, "he's just the kind of snake who'd press charges. Assault, intimidation, harassment, even if you don't lay a finger on him." A heavy silence fell over the table. Martin sat back. "I get it. Hell, I respect it. Man messes with families, deserves worse than what you've got planned." He paused, letting the words settle like dust on a hot day. "That said, it'd be better if Rick got the message without anybody here catching charges that stick to you the rest of your lives." He drummed his thick fingers once against the table. "So, here's what we're gonna do." We all leaned in. "I'll pay Rick a little visit. I'll lay it out for him, nice and clear. No threats, no violence, just the facts." Martin's grin turned slow and mean. "And I'll scare the absolute hell out of him." The room buzzed. Relief, approval, a few low chuckles. Mike raised his hand like he was back in 5th grade. Sheriff, will it, work?" Martin smiled fully now, a smile that made me glad I wasn't on the wrong side of it. "Son, I've been making grown men piss themselves since before you learned how to tie your shoes. Rick's a coward. He prays where he thinks nobody's looking. He finds out everyone's looking and that I'm looking, he'll be packing a U-Haul before you can say homewrecker." We all nodded. The tension in the room dissolved like sugar in hot coffee. Martin stood up, adjusting his belt. "I'll handle Rick. You boys enjoy your Saturday. Take your wives fishing or something." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "And fellas, thank you. Town's better off with you looking after it." And just like that, he was gone. The door swung shut. Silence. Then Tony cracked a grin. "Hell," he said, "I think I just fell a little bit in love with Sheriff Martin." We all laughed, Loud, raw, real. For the first time in weeks, I felt it too. Hope. Not for Amanda, not for the past. Hope for something better. Rick's reckoning was still coming, but now it had a badge behind it. And the best part? We didn't have to lift a damn finger. Sheriff Martin didn't show up with lights or sirens. No grand entrance. Just his cruiser rolling down Rick's street early Sunday morning, slow and steady. I watched from a few houses down, leaned back in my truck, coffee in hand. The air was crisp and cool, perfect weather for a man to get run out of town. Martin climbed out, adjusted his hat, and made his way up Rick's front steps. One knock. Not two, not a long poundin'. Just one. The kind that says, "You're gonna open this door, or I'm coming through it."
Rick answered. Looked rough, like he hadn't slept much. Good. Maybe he felt the walls closing in already. They stood there for a minute, Sheriff Martin and Rick, talking low enough that nobody else could hear. No shouting, no threats. Just two men, but only one of them standing tall. Rick's body language told the whole story. First, he stiffened up, tried to puff out his chest. Then, the shoulders dropped. The arms sagged. His head bowed a little, like he was trying to make himself smaller. Whatever Martin said, it hit Rick square in the gut. 10 minutes later, Rick came stumbling out the door with a duffel bag half-packed, tossing it into the bed of his battered truck. Didn't even lock the door behind him. Didn't even glance back. Rick peeled out of there like the devil himself was nipping at his heels. And just like that, he was gone. Sheriff Martin stood on Rick's porch for a minute longer, looking out over the neighborhood like he was inspecting his handiwork. Then he tipped his hat once, not to anyone in particular, and drove off. By Monday morning, Rick's house was a ghost. The porch light swinging in the wind. The mailbox stuffed with junk mail. Nobody knew exactly why he left. Not yet. The rumors started, of course. Theories floated around like smoke. Maybe he was running from the law. Maybe he got caught cheating one too many times. Maybe someone finally caught up to him for real. But the truth, the real truth, stayed between Rick and Sheriff Martin. And it burned Rick worse than any public shaming ever could. He didn't get to play the victim. He didn't get to twist the story. He just vanished, like a stain wiped clean off the town. No drama, no last stand. Just a cold, quiet end, exactly the way men like Rick deserve. And me? I didn't have to lift a finger. The town didn't know the whole story yet, but they would. They always do. And by then, Rick would be nothing more than a bad memory nobody missed. The divorce went about how you'd expect. Amanda didn't put up much of a fight, not after everything came out. Not after Rick bolted like a cockroach under the kitchen light. We split the assets straight down the middle, as clean as the lawyers could make it. No drama, no tears. She kept the house, I kept my dignity. Seemed like a fair trade. The day I signed the last paper, I walked out of the courthouse lighter than I had in years. It wasn't joy exactly. More like relief. Like I'd finally dropped a pack full of bricks I didn't even realize I was carrying. And the best part? I wasn't walking out alone. The town didn't know the whole story yet. But they would. They always do. And by then, Rick would be nothing more than a bad memory nobody missed. See, when you go through hell, you find out real quick who's willing to walk through the fire with you. Turns out, I picked up 18 damn good men along the way. The same guys who stood shoulder to shoulder when Rick was poisoning our town. Now, they stood shoulder to shoulder with me. Guys who didn't just pat you on the back and say thoughts and prayers, but actually showed up when you needed to move furniture, needed a beer, or just needed somebody to say, yeah, you got screwed, but you're still standing. In the months after the divorce, I found myself doing things I hadn't done in years. Fishing trips, poker nights, Saturday morning coffee at the old diner, swapping stories and laughing like idiots. Helping rebuild a buddy's deck just because he asked. Hell, I even picked up softball again, and I was terrible. But nobody cared. Because the thing about real friends, the ones forged in fire, is that they don't keep score. They're just there. Turns out, losing Amanda didn't break me. It freed me. I didn't lose a wife. I gained a band of brothers. And as for love, I wasn't rushing it. One day, maybe, someone honest, someone real, someone who understood that loyalty isn't optional. It's the whole damn point. But for now, I had my truck, I had my life back. I had 18 solid friends who would take a bullet for me and knew I'd do the same. Not bad for a guy who once thought a cheating wife was the end of the world. Turns out, it was just the beginning. And the best part? Rick was gone. Amanda was a memory. And I was right where I belonged. Standing tall, laughing loud, and living a life they couldn't even dream of touching. A few weeks after the dust settled, after Rick's truck disappeared over the horizon and Amanda's name stopped catching in my throat, the boys decided to meet up at Miller's Tavern. This time, the air was lighter. No storm clouds hanging over us. Just cold beer, bad nachos, and the easy way men sit when there's no unfinished business left. And, right on cue, Sheriff Martin strolled in. Not in uniform. Just jeans, boots, and a plain gray t-shirt that somehow made him look twice as dangerous. He pulled up a chair, grabbed a pint, and raised it towards us with a lazy grin. "Glad to see you boys ain't burned the place down yet," he said. We all laughed, a low rumble of sound that shook the dusty windows. After a few rounds and a lot of bad jokes, Tony leaned in and asked the question that had been on everyone's mind since that Sunday morning. "All right, Sheriff," he said, slapping the table once. "You gotta tell us, what'd you say to Rick to make him run like the damn building was on fire?" Martin chuckled, took a sip of his beer, and leaned back in his chair, the king at ease on his throne. "Wasn't much," he said. "Didn't need to be." We all leaned in. "I told him," Martin said, slow and steady, "Son, this town knows what you are now. You stay, every time you walk into a store, folks are gonna look at you like you tracked dog shit across their clean floors." He paused, taking another drink, letting the words hang there. "You stay," he continued, "and you're gonna be real lonely, real fast. No friends, no work, no second chances. You won't get so much of a hot meal or a spare bolt at the hardware store." The guys nodded slowly, savoring it like good whiskey. Martin grinned wider, the kind of grin you earn after years of not blinking first. "And then I told him," he said, "if you stay after all that, I promise you every patrol car in this county is going to have your picture taped to the dashboard. And every ticket, every inspection, every noise complaint, it'll all come straight to your front door." He raised his pint glass, the foam trailing down the sides. I told him, real friendly-like, "You're welcome to stay, Rick, but I strongly suggest you don't." We all burst out laughing, real deep belly laughs that made the bartender glance over with a grin of his own. Mike wiped tears from his eyes, gasping, "You didn't even have to threaten him." Martin shrugged. "Didn't have to. You put a man's whole future in front of him,
Show him just how empty it's gonna be, and he'll dig his own grave fast enough. He drained the rest of his beer, thudded the glass down on the table, and leaned in just a little. Truth is, fellas, it ain't fists that end a man like Rick. He tapped the side of his head once, then his heart. It's here and here. When you take away the lies he tells himself, there's nothing left but a scared little boy running for the hills. The table went quiet for a second, the kind of silence that says you just heard something true. Then we raised our glasses, every man around that beat-up table grinning like wolves who finally got to chase the pack out of their valley. We drank to the sheriff, we drank to brotherhood, and we drank to a town that remembered what it meant to stand up together without firing a single shot. Rick was gone. The stain he left behind was already fading. And us? We were still here. Stronger, wiser, unbreakable. Just the way it was always supposed to be.